Welcome back to the shop. Thanks for watching, I do appreciate it. Today is the last day I am going to be working on the Jimmy's buggy. So it'll be the last video for the Jimmy's buggy. I've been helping this guy out for about the last 10 months. We've got it to a point where the little personal touches he'll do himself. Everyone's got to do that. The last few parts that I've ordered for this, or he's ordered for this, have finally come in, and then a few little odds and ends. But the two major things I'm going to finish up today are rear axle U-joints, because the axle shafts came in, and we're going to go with these Revolution axle U-joints. I have not used them before. They are a chrome ollie joint. They're bushing. There are no needle bearings in there. So very similar to a CTM or a Yukon Super joint. We'll give these a shot, see how they perform. I've heard good things about them, so we'll just leave it at that for now. The other major thing I am going to take care of on this is I got to get the brakes all plumbed and bled. So stopping is very important when you can go. So get that finished and a couple little odds and ends. Here we go. Another one of the little odds and ends I'm taking care of is a skid plate. They ran some long bolts through with no locking nuts, which you can't fit the locking nuts in this one. But the bolts being too long, if it does get shoved up, it'll end up hitting the oil pan. So I'm cutting the ends of the studs off, or ends of the bolts off, and then I'm going to center punch them to act as a locking mechanism for the nut. There were several mysteries in this thing. I don't know how this thing got coated with piles of oil that I ended up having to clean off. Didn't have any oil pressure. Where was it going to come from? Aside from being incorrectly installed, all of these studs were way too short, less than 1/4 inch into the... As par with everything on this buggy, I pull the heister arms off to paint them and discover all the studs have been either over tightened, stripped out, incorrectly installed. So now I'm going to run a thread chase through all of them, which I've already done that one. I've got some new ARP studs. I'll thread those in as far as I can by hand. And after you get them in by hand, then what you want to do is put a counter nut and a nut to seal them. Oh, there's the nut. Which means put two on as such. Once you got it, counter nut on there, you can finish threading the stud down into its receiving end and seat it against the shoulder. Now, you don't have to torque this really super tight, but I want them snugged in there so that they kind of lock in. Then undo the counter nut. Now I will go back and torque those correctly. Only another 7 more to go, or 9. ARP puts a spec on these bolts at 110 pounds, whereas a regular, like grade 8 half-inch bolt is like 70, 80 pounds. So there is a significant difference. There you go. We are now torqued. You can cut the extra off, but since we're already as high as the kingpin preload, I'm just going to leave them there. Today's adventure is these heavy-duty axle shafts for the buggy I'm doing the build-out on the rear axle. So these are a steer axle. They're basically a Dana 60 outer, 14-bolt inner. These axles were ordered from Brannick. I gave them a measurement. They ordered them, and here they are. They come with an inner and an outer. I love the sound of chromoly. And we're going to try these U-joints that Revolution Gear has out now. They're a chromoly U-joint. They have no needle bearings, just a bushing grease fitting. And we're going to see if these are as tough as they claim they are, and with the rest of the chromoly joints out there. I've got another set of these I'm going to use on my buggy when that time comes. But for now, get these installed. Couple little side notes. Read your snap ring. You want the edge of your snap ring so it won't come off of the cap. Also, they come with little needle grease fittings for each bearing cap. You'll probably want to wait till you put the axle in the vehicle before you put those in. Usually these are just a little bit too wide with that grease fitting in to fit them into the outer knuckle assembly. So I'm not going to use the press. I am very comfortable doing U-joints this way. So here we go. Just a hammer and tapping them in works just fine. Takes longer to put the snap rings in than it does the U-joint. Really doesn't matter if you do the inside or outside shaft first. Once you have one, the other one goes together. I am going to grease this before I put it in, and then I will put the fittings in later. Once you get it all assembled, double check, make sure your snap rings are seated. Even if they're seated, these have this terrible tendency to spread those joints out and pop out. A lot of guys I know will tack weld the caps just as a safety precaution. Currently, I'm not going to do that because I don't know much else about this guy's habits, and if he's on a trail or if he has to take these back apart, I don't know where he's going to be at on this. But I'd run him a trail, make sure nothing comes loose, make sure everything works. Then if I'm concerned, I would tack it in at that point, go from there. I'm just not a big fan of rust, so caliper paint. And then I'm coming back here and you can see these knuckles were never painted. I'm gonna just do some spot paint around these, try to get those to not rust so bad here in the future. Getting ready to put the axle shafts in this, and something I'd like to reiterate to people. When you put stuff together, put it together right, even if you have to take it apart again. At minimum, these need lock washers, and most of these will have a lock nut on them. You know, if someone didn't know that and they put it together and didn't know they had to take it apart again, your spindle comes loose. Creates a lot of damage downstream. Axle's in, but like everything else on this project, missing parts. So we've got the seal for the spindle, the outer, the inner seal for the spindle bearings, and then the plastic thrust. Get all those put in, and then it's just assemble as normal. And this rear goes together just like any Dana 60 front, so nothing too difficult. Once you get all the spindle and the brake caliper hanger on, use a torque wrench, torque them correctly. Usually I don't even use a spindle socket. I'll use a pry bar and then just turn the rotor accordingly. A couple little tricks of the trade here. See how these pads move? If you take the pad and a hammer, tap those little ears down so they fit tight, you'll get a lot less brake noise. A bit more. Keep in mind, I'm not hammering on the material, I'm setting the backing on here. And same thing with the inner clip, make sure you have an inner clip in there, it'll keep that pad loaded up. And then, make sure you use the correct caliper on the correct side. I wasn't keeping track of that since I'm talking to myself on a camera, but you want your bleeder up. As such, hardware, caliper pins, make sure they move free. This is where you want to grease, or this right here is where you want to grease. I really don't have too much problem in this part of the country because we don't have a lot of rust, a lot of moisture. A little Scotch-Brite on this rusty stuff. I don't need to take all of it off. These are new rotors, but I want to take enough off that they don't impregnate the pads as soon as I hit the brakes. So a lot of surface rust. It's coming off though. All right, good to go there. And the calipers have stamped on them this size of FIP, but if you notice, there's some thread sealant already in it. So I don't need to add additional thread seal to it. I'll install these in the calipers and the master cylinder, and then I can start building some lines. Buggy, it's got dual master cylinders. I used the port size that they recommended, and I've bent some lines that'll go down to the main chassis. Now I've installed a couple of mounting points for small brackets. I'll do this front half first, and then I'll do the back half. It's got dual master cylinders, one for the front brakes, one for the rear brakes. Now this one's set up with a single pedal at this point, but at some point he's probably going to set up a dual pedal so he can isolate front to rear. Now I ran hard lines down to a frame point down here. And then I run a soft line so that it can flex with the suspension. And then the same thing, I ran the hard line back to this point here where I can attach with the soft line. That way the suspension can move up and down. Then on the top of the suspension link, a hard line, a soft line for a connector link, and then hard lines to each axle where I run a soft line to the calipers. And on the same thing with the fronts, you know, I run a hard line down the link, then a soft line, and then hard lines down to the calipers. Now the front calipers on this are Willwood. The rears are a GM 3/4 ton. At this point, I've just started bleeding the master cylinder. I've got fluid in it. I'm just kind of letting it percolate, and then I will do an on-car bench bleed right through the fittings here. Then we'll see if it holds fluid. Loosen the bleeder up and just be patient. Gravity will work. It'll fill this caliper up and then it'll bubble and it'll all be out of air and you'll be done. As soon as you get fluid in all 4 calipers, your brakes are done. And there we go. My guy with this buggy wants this mirror mounted on the side, so it comes with this kit with these 2 equal tabs. Now, I'm going to mount this on this A pillar here, and that A pillar is angled, so I made me a longer tab, and I'm going to use 3/16 on this lower tab just in case. But I'm going to mount it so that if you lay this on its side, the mirror will fold in and it won't damage the tabs. Work. After it's tacked, I just burn it in, top and bottom, let her cool down, throw some paint on it. And you can see, if you lay it over on its side, it's flush, so it won't break off, it'll just push the mirror in, and then you pull it back out. Bolted this pair of tabs. I'll put this collar in it. You can hook your hook to it, or you can remove it, slide through. Makes it kind of versatile for your suck down winch. Loop up here, loop down there, run the winch down and back up. That way it doesn't clang around. You've got a suck down winch that'll work nice and quiet. Paneling's back on, seats are all in. I think we're done with this one for now. The only thing I'm waiting on right now is the suck down winch to show up. Put about 4 wires together, tie it up back here, and this thing's out of here. When the suck down winch showed up, the drive shafts also showed up, so got the drive shafts installed as well. Well, it's always a good sign when what you've worked on drove out instead of being towed out. So thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm sure this guy's going to be chasing some bugs out for the next few months, but that happens when you build a car. And the fun thing is, it's never what you thought you were going to be chasing. It's always something weird. So I'll do an update video at some point and let you know how it went. We'll see you next time. Might have to do a Moab bump.
Just a little, yeah. What do you think, Sam? Yeah, that's pretty dang good, honestly. If any's just a little, yeah. Wow, that was awesome.
You're up. Keep it turned, driver. Keep coming forward. It's coming down. Okay, you got all four on the ground again. Just hold it straight and your right side will stay up there the whole way.
I can't see that at all. You gotta stay on that.
Just
on the edge of that lip.
right now, you're just hold that position. You're
A little bit passenger. Right there. 'Cause I want my rear to stay up on there.
A little passenger. Passenger. Your rear's right on the edge. Passenger. Your rear.
you're okay.
It's wedged in there, so. Okay, look at driver. Right there.
Your rear's dropping in that hole.
Yes, sir.
Much better. Bump it.
Bump it, little driver.
Come to, yeah, a little driver, and you're good. Nicely done. Nice little pocket there. For that one I launched at, that thing stayed.
You should have seen the look on Carrie's face on that lower one when you launched.
Oh yeah. That scared me a little.
He's wide enough, he can probably just straddle that big hole. Nice, nice, smooth.
Much better on this side. The last time was car was at Mexico. Before that, I was in Centennial on the far side over by Southland. And I was there for 4 years. And I actually but oil field just moved me around a lot. I like it. I was born and raised in Eastern New Mexico, so it's nice to be back for a little while. The desert down there is amazing. It really is.
Oh, I wasn't sure what was up here, so I just figured, well, let's see what happens.
Right. Alright, turn hard. Remember? Arm up. Yeah. Perfect.
Straight up.
Straight.
Nice line.
Yep. Go faster. Faster now, a little bit. And there we go.
There will be no filming in the dunes because I'll be doing about 50 miles an hour. So here we go.